I don't know the situation with Raesjon. It just seems like every time he's been in there, he has, to me, has been earning reps. Like going back to the Cotton Bowl last year, he came in, had just a couple snaps at the end there, and played amazing. I think it's gonna be hard for them to justify. But here's the issue, and it's a great problem to have. You have Mason Cobb, who is they brought him over because the guy is a beast. And we've seen the range and the height and just the physical freak that Eric Gentry is. So I don't think it's much a function of Raesjon not doing it at practice or not playing. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that it's just a very, very crowded middle linebacker room. But I do think that what he's shown this coaching staff is that there is a role for him. Again, the way he played Urasek and the way he played in the middle and when he had reps on Saturday absolutely shows you this guy is going to be very useful in a lot of situations. And I hope he gets a lot of playing time, because I got to say, if I'm Raesjon Davis and you continue not to play me, this guy could be playing anywhere in the Pac-12, I think. So the fact that they have a role for him, I'm hoping that role continues.
I would add the point that, you're playing USC playing in the desert on the 23rd, and then you're playing in the Rocky Mountains on the 30th. That's going to be a very interesting 2-week stack. Not so much in terms of the opponents. Like Colorado is an interesting opponent, but Arizona State, like that game should be a blowout. But it's going to be really interesting in terms of you're going from one very distinct environment and set of conditions to another one. So for USC fans worried about the ones and the twos and the depth chart and the snap counts, I think that, for those 2 games in Tempe, and then you go to Boulder, two road games in very different kinds of environments, that the main thing is having depth, and the main thing is rotating those guys in so that they stay fresh. So I don't think we're yet at the point where we have to say, you know what, the coaches have to nail down the ones at all these positions. I think that, just getting balanced snap counts is still the main thing. Against Colorado, how that game evolves, maybe then that becomes a little bit more of a consideration in terms of having to have your absolute best players on the field. But I think that for this Arizona State game, and obviously we'll talk more about it next week when kickoff time arrives, but I think certainly for this Arizona State game with Colorado just around the bend 1 week later, this coaching staff, I think, gets one more game, not a preseason game, because this is a road conference game. I think you do need to treat it a little bit more conservatively in terms of your rotations. Maybe not you're as liberal in terms of how you've been just shuffling players in and out. But with the weather and the environment, and with Colorado a week later, it's still going to be a time where you don't want to overload your ones and your starters too much, and you want to get other guys into the mix. So it's one more game in which this coaching staff really can focus in on getting players reps, and then maybe against Colorado, you really focus on shortening your rotation so that you make sure you have your best guys against Shadur, Travis Hunter, and the rest of that Colorado offense. It's going to be interesting to see how the coaches handle the lineup rotations for the Arizona State game.
And they got more questions than we have answered in those 3 games, because there's a guy like Bryson Shaw that came in and he had a very sound game as well. I'm glad I'm not deciding between. It's a great problem to have, but I'm glad I'm not these position coaches and a defensive coordinator trying to figure out what pieces are going to be available. But what we do know is there is quality depth. While we did see a big drop off when you saw the 1s and 2s with maybe the 2s and 3s on the offensive side of the ball, you sure didn't see a lot of that when you're seeing these guys, a lot of rotation on defense. You're not seeing a big drop off, especially at that middle linebacker position, at the safety position. Jalen Smith had that one moment, but overall he led the team in tackles on Saturday. They're playing well. As a matter of fact, I wanted to show you guys this. They had on the defensive side, so they had just 2 sacks, but they had 9 tackles for loss in that game. And on third down, they were regularly getting them behind the sticks because of all those tackles for loss. And those weren't just in the first half. That was in the second half also with some of the backups. And on that last fumble, if you guys actually stayed long enough to watch that fumble or kept the TV on long enough, it was none other than Korey Foreman getting in there and getting that ball loose. So they're going deep into the depth chart. and all these guys are making plays, and that's a great sign looking forward.
Are you guys getting indication through 3 games that Korey Foreman is going to be the type impact player that he has been forecasted to be?
Well, he's not getting a lot of reps. I think it might be another function we were talking about. I don't think it's anything against Korey Foreman. It just thinks that defensive end position is pretty crowded as well. So there's you got Sullivan, you've got we talked about Lucas earlier. There's a lot of athletes over there that are going to give him a lot of competition. Is it that he's not playing better? I absolutely think he's improving. Has he improved enough to get past those guys at this point? As far as how many reps he's getting? I mean, his snap count in this game. Matt, if you want to go ahead, I'll try to find his snap count, but he did not get a lot of snaps.
Well, Tim, you mentioned that Anthony Lucas got about 15 snaps, give or take a few. So, like, if Anthony Lucas isn't getting a lot of snaps, so it's not just a Korey Foreman thing. It really does it reinforces what Tim's saying about this being a crowded position group where the coaches are, in the midst of a figuring out process in terms of, how to distribute, how to allocate all these snaps, all these reps. And, it's going to be interesting to see when the substitution patterns and snap count allotments change. I think that, to this point, I'm on record as saying I love the way the coaches are handling the snap counts generally. Not so much about the specific players, but just the general principle. Like these first 3 games, absolutely necessary to just get a lot of player evaluations and not overextend anybody. It's exactly the way it should have been handled on a broader level. I love it. And I think that against Arizona State, a team which, couldn't beat Oklahoma State's backup quarterbacks, you should be able to handle ASU relatively with relative comfort. And then against Colorado, that's, I think, going to be really the first big indicator of where Alex Grinch and his defensive position coaches see the greater makeup of this defense in terms of guys they trust, guys they're going to ride with, and test, against quality competition, against a quality offense. That Colorado offense is going to be the first really good offense that USC is going to meet this season. So is that a point in time, September 30, when these substitution patterns and the snap count allotments change? That is a major plot point for this USC season. The fact that it comes 2 weeks before Notre Dame, the coaches can then really solidify their 1s and 2s and solidify who they know they're going to want to take into battle when they go against Sam Hartman in South Bend on October 14th.
And, actually, I stand corrected. Korey Foreman, very quietly, Korey Foreman had 13 snaps to the 15 that Anthony Lucas got. So they were pretty even on those guys. And, really outside of Christian Roland Wallace and Kalen Bullock and Jalen Smith, who played all of them over 40 reps, the snap counts for everybody else were all under 40. So there you see a lot. I'm looking at this stat sheet, and a lot of guys played again, and they held Stanford. I know Stanford's not a good team this year, but they held them out of the end zone to the last 3 minutes of the game. So again, I'm Trojan fans, you should be really excited about the depth you have on defense.